Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fearlessly Authentic. I'm your host, Jody Harrison Bauer, and I'm so excited to have you join me today, along with my guest. I can't wait to introduce her because you are going to love what she has to say. If you are new to the show, I want to let you know that you're in for a treat because every week we aim to educate, empower, entertain you a little bit, and inspire you so you can live a fearlessly authentic life. Because in my opinion, why are we all here if we're not living fearlessly authentic? And it's not the easiest thing to do, but that's why I have the show. So I can try to help you because for so long I was afraid to take risks. So my guests are people who have taken risks when you didn't think they should, or they were told not to, or they've created products or services that help you live a fearlessly authentic life. So please remember to subscribe, rate, review, share with your friends. We have over 100 countries listening to this show right now. And so I love hearing from you. Please keep emailing me and telling me what you want to hear. You can find me at Jody Harrison Bauer, and you can also go to YouTube and check out me and my guests talking so you can see what we look like. So I want to introduce right now my guest, Felicia Hershenhorn. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I know, I'm excited. It's been like lots of ups and downs, and we finally got here. I'm so excited. I want to introduce you to my listeners right here. Felicia, also known as Runi, we will talk about that in a second, by her family and friends, has always been the first to lend advice or a tampon, help you apply your fave nude gloss, or drop a sex tip or two. We'll talk about that too. Felicia's MO was always to be your ultimate hype girl when it came to body, beauty, or sex. Felicia quit her day job as a lawyer at 28 to create Runi, an intimate wellness company, and is redefining self-care as a pursuit of pleasure, radically transforming sex lives, and tackling the taboo of sexual wellness. How do you like that intro?
It's a big bill to foot, but
It
sounds
is.
like
It is. You sound very impressive, and I love your story. So why don't we start at the beginning? You grew up in Toronto,
Mhm.
and you kind of sort of felt like a bit of an outcast there, right?
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
was that?
So I feel like in the community I grew up in, there was like things to do, things to say, places to go. And if you didn't do those things or say those things or fit well within that mold, you were like you mentioned, an outcast, or it was like people were looking at you weirdly. And I never subscribed to it. I mean, I tried. Trust me, I wanted to fit in, but it just didn't work with me. Like, and I was always crazy and creative and like doing things my own way. So I found musical theater, and that was kind of my out. But that's kind of what happened. Like, I just didn't feel like I was doing things the way that people were doing them. But more than that, I wasn't getting happiness from doing those same things. Like, so I tried. I was like,
Right.
please.
Right. So even trying those things that you thought would like feel more creative, you still didn't feel like that was it.
Yeah, exactly. And like we all grew up, going to the same schools and the same camps and wearing the same clothes. And I just like, I never felt comfortable in that. It was like weird for me, but I saw all my friends getting so much like pleasure out of it. And I was like, why isn't that happening for me?
It's
Like,
it's funny because when I think back a long time ago, when I was still married over 20 years ago, thinking like sitting at a country club, little kids, everybody's got their little kids, and thinking, I just don't fit in here. And that was in my 30s. And even like a little bit younger, I like in high school, I felt like I didn't fit in a little bit, but more so as I became more aware. I guess it took me a while to become more aware.
Mhm.
And I think it's just so important to talk about that and realize, okay, well, if I don't really feel like I fit in here, does that make me super eccentric and weird? Or where do I go to become my most fearlessly authentic self, right? Where do I go? What do I do with all of this I have inside of me? So where did that take you once you felt like even that wasn't fulfilling to you?
I'm still on the journey. I'm still
I
there.
like
I'm
that
still
answer.
figuring
Yeah.
it out. But I think you know, the part of being fearlessly authentic, like that came much later. Like when I first decided, it was a conscious decision. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, this is just like not working for me. And I was mean and I was not nice and I wasn't like fun to be around. I didn't even like myself because
Right.
I was like, I'm doing things constantly that don't bring me happiness and don't bring me pleasure. And I think the first, even in my relationships, like my personal relationships with boyfriends, like I just wasn't fun to be around. Um,
And you
and
probably weren't, so you weren't your best human. So that's,
um,
so your relationships probably all sucked.
yeah, they were horrible, really
Yeah.
horrible. And it was very difficult for me to keep up relationships because I just didn't care. Because I really just wasn't happy. And so I
Right.
didn't feel like I was getting anything out of it. So I wasn't putting anything in it. And even like moments where I was giving a lot of myself away to people, it was felt like it was such an energy expenditure because
Mm.
there was just so much of me going into making like one social interaction happen where it seemed normal. But in my brain, I was like, I'm so unhappy. And I think the
It's that depletion of energy, right?
yeah,
And then
yeah.
did you find that, because I have gone through phases like this, and a lot of people who are very creative, and I'm not saying I'm as creative as you are by any means, but we tend to isolate ourselves a little bit because then we're like, we don't know where to go. And then you become depressed.
Mhm.
So go ahead and tell us about your journey, like how this happened. What
You know, I was always really like outgoing and bubbly. And the thing was, is that would bring me that would bring me so much excitement. So, like being on stage, whether that was like actually on stage or like doing a performance in my real life, pretending like I was normal, like that kind of became something that I would play into.
Mhm.
But instead of me going home and feeling like energized, like you just mentioned, I would go home and be so depleted. And
Mm.
I think it was like, this is a crazy story. I think now it's about 4 years ago, but I decided I was like, I'm going to try yoga. Cause like I was really wound up, like so wound up, so tightly, like to the point where it was like, if they messed up, like they brought me low sodium soy sauce instead of like the regular soy sauce,
You
I was
lose
like,
your shit,
oh
right?
my God, I was flipping out.
Right.
So I'm like, I need to try yoga. Okay, so I go to the yoga studio that's around my house and you know, they would do those like $20 a week things. And you could try it out. So I'm like,
Right.
"Okay, I'm here to try it out. Here's the $20." They're like, "Give us your email." I'm like, "Okay." So I give my email and they're like, "You know, we'll give it to you for $20. Don't worry about it, but you've been here before." But it was a long time ago. I'm like, "What do you mean I've been here before?" They're like, "You've been here before." And then they like click, click, click on their computer. They're like, "It was actually 10 years to the day, like the exact day." And I remember I was 16 and I had gone to a yoga class, but I guess it was like a different studio. They had like changed
Right.
owners, changed the name, and I had forgotten. But it was, and they, I guess, absorbed their book of business, but it was 10 years to the day. And I was like, something's interesting here. And then I walked into that
Right.
class, my life was changed. And after that class, that teacher now is still like a very close friend of mine. I go to all her classes all the time. But I made a decision in that class, like I was just going to release anything that wasn't for me. This teacher's name, for anyone who's in Toronto, is Lisa Jane White Yoga. She runs Moto Lawrence Park. She's amazing. And I literally, what she was talking about, just releasing the things that weren't for you and accepting the things that were. And sometimes that's not easy. Like sometimes that's tough.
It's not easy at all. It's
Mhm,
very, you hear people talking about that all the time, releasing what's not for you and accept what is coming for you and doing what
mhm,
feels right for you. That's hard.
mhm.
Again, feeling like, okay, I still don't fit in, right?
Right.
But
And people also think like, okay, if I'm releasing everything that's not for me and accepting all the things that are, it's like it should be easy. No, 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 no. Like sometimes the things that are meant for you are the challenges, are the trials, are the tribulations. And you can't just release something because it's, you know, difficult.
right,
But if something is bringing you so much strife and something is giving you like internal pause and questioning, like we mentioned, who you are and you know what your purpose is in life, like then you have to start maybe recalibrating. And so after that class I was like, I'm recalibrating my life. And you know, I let go of certain relationships that weren't meant for me. I decided, you know what, law, I worked so hard to become a lawyer. I went to law
right.
school, I did all the shit that I
It's a lot of work.
yeah. And then I was like, It's not for me. It's really not for me. So,
Was it just mundane, or it wasn't you couldn't probably be very creative? That's what I'm assuming, but it was probably more than that.
well, as a lawyer, number one, you represent the bar association and you also represent your clients. So, like, your personal views on things always take a step back. And as somebody
Mm.
that's like quite outgoing, like I mentioned, I was just like bubbly and kind of crazy and, out there. It was difficult for me. I couldn't wear what I wanted to wear. I couldn't say what I wanted to say. And not to say that you're like a stone cold robot, but you always have to be aware that you're always defending your client or representing your client and always representing the bar association. That's a lot of pressure.
Mhm.
So I always felt like stifled and kind of put in a corner. And I just, one of the I just remember like walking into work one day and being like, am I really crossing this person's
I
T's
feel
and
like I've given birth
I's?
to you. I swear. You're like telling my story of like what I didn't realize in my 20s. Yeah.
It's crazy. But so many people are like okay doing that. And I'm like, I wish I could be like you because I would have saved myself a lot of tears, like a lot.
Well, be grateful that you recognize that at such a young age, that you were like, this isn't working for me anymore. Because when I was growing up, it was like, okay, your parents told you this is the profession you chose. This
Mhm.
is what you are doing. At least that's how I was raised. And this is what you're sticking to. It was like, okay, you got married. I got married at 24. Yeah, yeah. And I know. And I had a great job and I gave that up. I mean, it was an agreement with me and my ex-husband in when I had my first daughter in 1989. But I'm thinking about, as you're telling this story, after I got divorced, I went out into the workforce and I sold eyeglasses. And I realized soon, if I was wearing a tight dress and high heels, that the miserable woman sitting at the gatekeeper, who is usually a miserable person, and I'm not saying you're all miserable people, but like that's who I ran into. And they were mean to me. And then as I would start bringing coffee or cupcakes or anything like that, donuts, they would be nicer, but I realized they were judging me. So here I was being Jody, but I had to fit into the box in order to be let in to speak to whoever I could talk to sell my eyeglasses to. So I started showing up unauthentically in oversized dresses, flat shoes, hair like I didn't even brush it, no makeup on. And guess what? They let me in.
Mhm.
And that was so hard for me to live with because I'm like, I'm not being myself.
Right.
So I
Well, they
understand that.
felt probably, insecure because you were showing up doing like, first of all, confident to wear something that they don't feel confident in wearing, like being, and it was even probably less about what you were wearing and more about how you presented yourself, just super confident. And that energy can sometimes be intimidating. Um,
Right. Right. And it is important the way you present yourself. So
mhm.
you feeling stifled as an attorney, wanting to do a good job, like get me out of here because you can't breathe. You can't do your job well. So what was the impetus? Like you woke up one morning and you just said, I'm done.
Well, so I had on the side started a beauty company with a partner, and then we ended up bringing on like a face of the company. She was an Instagram star, but we were kind of working on this thing, and it started just becoming like bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I was like, I can't dip my foot in the pot 10% because the output will only be 10%.
10%. Right.
So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Like I'm miserable. I wasn't miserable at my job. I had amazing friends. My boss was great. The people were fantastic, but it just wasn't for me long term. I knew
Right.
that I couldn't wake up and do this for the rest of my life. And so I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. So I literally, it was actually crazy. I took a vacation because I needed a vacation and I had one coming up, and I was not gonna quit. And then the day after my vacation, I literally was like, I have to get out of here. And it was not the right way to quit at all.
Right.
But I just knew if I stayed even one more second that I wouldn't follow through with the beauty thing because I would come up with excuse after excuse after excuse why I needed to stay at my job. And I was feeling empowered and relaxed from my vacation.
Right.
So
It's
I
like staying in a relationship that isn't working for you because work is a relationship. Staying in that relationship and going, oh, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Oh, but this is really good about them. But no, I really know that. And then one day for me, that's usually how it works. I wake up and I just feel empowered. We have this moment, right? And I think a lot of people talk about that. You just have this moment of empowerment, of strength, and you're like, I'm going to do it. And you don't even think about all the things you worried about before, because they just, it's, you just can't live like that anymore. So that, for me, that usually happens with breakups.
Literally. And it's always worse. It's always like, I could have done this 6 months ago. Like,
right. Like what took me so long to get to this point?
yeah. Yeah.
So
But
tell
when
me,
you do it,
yeah, once you do it, you suddenly feel free.
oh yeah, for sure.
And that's what I want people to get from this, is that at a young age, you recognize this about yourself. And for all of the listeners who are listening that are scared to take that risk, I want them to feel, empowered and inspired by your story. So you had this side business of beauty. You decided, okay, I got to go all in because this other job wasn't fulfilling me. I wasn't fulfilled as a lawyer. So what happened from there?
So we went all in with the business, with the skincare business, and it was great. It was a gummy skincare business. We got it into Saks, we got it into Nordstrom's, into J.C. Penney, a bunch of Verishop, like a bunch of different retailers. We did amazing online, and it really became like this huge business, and it was really, really exciting. And I finally,
did you have connections? Like, how did you get into these big stores?
it's so funny. So we basically faked it till we made it, right? Like with everything, we just were like, we are a big brand. We are a big brand. And I mean, listen, we had the influencer. She had 27 million followers. So
Okay.
they knew who she was and they
Okay.
wanted her. You know, all these big retailers want to speak to Gen Z and millennials. I mean,
Right.
they're speaking to millennials, but they really want to move into Gen Z. She's just on the cusp of Gen Z and millennials. So it was really
They don't
easy.
want to speak to any baby boomers.
For some reason, they're just like, even
I
though
know.
we all have expendable income, like anyone over 28, 29 ostensibly has it, they're like, nope, Gen Z.
Wow, it's crazy. Go ahead.
It's
I'm
so
sorry.
crazy, but you'd be so surprised. Like they love the Gen Z. And I get it because it's like they're the next consumer. So
Right.
they want
Right.
longevity.
Right.
But so it was really easy to utilize her as sort of like our medium and our invite like into all these places. And I really felt like I found my stride. Like I was like, okay, I own a beauty business. And I mean, you read my bio at the beginning, which is so funny to hear back because it's like little sound bites of like experiences, but
Right.
it really was like I was always telling people, okay, like your foundation doesn't match and I'm not trying to hate on you. I just want you to know like your neck and your face don't match, but I have the right color for you. And I know the right person who's going to match you. And oh, what perfume are you wearing? Oh, how do you get the flawless look? Or how do you do super glam? And where do you buy your clothes? Because I never wanted to wear the things everybody was wearing. I never wanted to look the way anybody was looking. And I was confident when I, had all those things that made me happy and people were attracted to that energy. And so I was always giving out tips and tricks. And I felt like, okay, I finally am now doing something where I feel like this is what I meant to do.
And it gave you a lot of joy.
a ton of joy.
Right.
I was very, very happy for a long time. But then I decided this is not enough. Like I want more and I want more now. And because once you get that little taste, I always tell people like it's just like breaking up. When you get that little taste of freedom, you're like, I want more of that. Like,
Right.
I can't wait to like compound that effect. So I did the beauty business. It was great, but I knew that I was sharing it with people because I had co-founders and it wasn't like Felicia's show. And I had, again, a lot of ideas and a lot of concepts that I wanted to really see out to the end, but it just didn't fit with that business. So I decided to leave, which was great. And I left.
Was that another scary decision, or did that one by that point we're like, this feels right, let's go?
Oh yeah. Because I had
Okay.
built up the business. The
Right.
business was doing great. And I just, like I knew again where that business was going and what my role was going to be. And I wanted more for myself. And these ideas that I had in my head, specifically for Runi, was not something that was compatible with that business. And I knew if I really wanted to like live out my truth, it had to be doing something else on my own.
Okay, so let's stop for a second. So
Sure.
that was CBD gummies. You said
No,
gummy beauty.
that was beauty gummy. no CBD at all.
Okay.
Just had like active ingredients that you would take for like healthy skin. So for example, it's like a supplement essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So one of the things in that I mentioned in your bio was that you like to give sex tips. So, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. That was one of the things. I love giving sex tips. And especially from an older person, nobody expects me to give out sex tips, but it's fun because people don't think outside the box. So I'm feeling that part of what wasn't completely authentic to you was that there was something so much deeper that you wanted to get into, where you
Mhm.
wanted to have an impact on younger women
Mhm.
or all women, and you weren't able to do that just through this supplement company.
That's exactly it. It was like, it was kind of, we had our MO of what we were selling and how we were selling it, but there was nothing about like empowering women to, I mean, it's crazy that I'm on this podcast called Fearlessly Authentic because that is what I want to do. And that's what I want to do through Runi. Like Runi is the company that I wish existed when I was like 15, 16, 17, 18.
Right.
And not to say that people at 15, 16, 17 need to be thinking about sex or sexuality, but you have to start thinking about healthy relationships, about what you want, about what makes you feel good. And whether that's in the bedroom, the boardroom, beyond, like those are conversations that we're not having. They're conversations that are not happening in school. And so all of a sudden you get to be 20, 21, 22, 23, you're starting to have sex. You don't know what a healthy relationship is. You don't know what makes you feel good. You don't know what you want. So not only can you not say yes, you don't feel empowered to say yes, you don't feel empowered to say no. And
Right.
that for me is so important. So, of course, we have our fun branding and we talk about fun things and we give sex tips, but we also have like medically accurate information, medically accurate sexual information. We're also giving advice on how to live your best self, like how to be your best self and live your best life. And that can start anywhere. It does not have to start in the bedroom. That's where we decide to start. Yours can start ordering a coffee. You know how many people feel anxious going to Starbucks, ordering their coffee? Like,
Yes, I do know people who are like
Mhm.
that. Why is that?
I think it's like you feel a lot of pressure. Number one, there's people in
Yeah.
line. How am I going to pay for this? Will the person hear me? Do I have to take off? I mean, when we're
Right.
wearing masks, do I take off my mask? Like, is this what size do I order? Does it make, there's a lot of pressure just to order a
That's
coffee.
such
And
a funny thing. That's such a funny thing that you bring up. Like that. So a lot of times I'll be on the phone with one of my daughters and I'll order my cold brew. So I ordered it as ice cold brew. And
right.
she's like, Mom, a cold brew is already iced. I'm like, oh, I just so like every time I drive through Dunkin' Donuts now, I'm like, cold brew,
The
like
regular cold
right, like I'm
brew.
like, oh, yeah. So I mean, it's just a weird thing. I have witnessed people getting freaked out when a waiter comes over or a
Mhm.
bartender comes over. They're like, meh, meh. Like, I'm like,
Well,
come on,
okay,
speak
it's
up.
so funny you say bartender because this I'm not a huge drinker, but I enjoy a little alcohol every now and again.
Right.
But because I'm not a big drinker, I'm not like exploring things. And I remember like I don't know what's good when they're like, "What tequila do you want?" I'm like, "Huh?" Like the one that you put in the drink. I don't know. Like, are there different brands? Sure, I don't know them. But I remember going out on dates when I was younger, and I would feel so flustered when they would ask that question, like, "What tequila do you want?" or "What type of drink?" And I wouldn't feel empowered to be like, "You know what? I like sweet and I like tequila. Make me something good." And I remember as soon as I stepped into making that my order instead of like freaking out over like, how will the other
Yes.
person receive me? It was like the other person was like, "Oh my God, you just trust them?" And I'm like, yeah, like, cause how am I even, what if I order something like a drink and the tequila that I like and it comes and it's still shitty? Like I'm in the same
Right.
spot, you know?
Right, right. And I've been ordering healthy. I've been eating healthy for the last
Mm,
30 years. And when people weren't eating healthy and didn't understand eating every 3 hours. And so now when I'm out with my friends, they just say, I'll eat what she's eating.
yeah, they
I'll
know
drink what
you.
she's drinking because I know if she orders it, it's probably good. So
Mhm.
going back to your business called Rooney, and it's
Yeah,
named that because
it's my childhood nickname.
okay,
Yeah,
we'll leave it at that.
that's it.
And yeah, so the I would in starting the business, you wanted to go straight for sexual wellness, right? Because
Yes.
that's what felt the most authentic to you, I would say.
Yeah, I always felt like, and this is a quote that I read, and I think, I've said this before, but it's from Diane von Furstenberg, and she said, "I never wanted to be a girl, I always wanted to be a woman." And I felt that, like, I always wanted to be more mature than I was. And in so many ways, like the way that I dressed, the way that I carried myself, who I was speaking to, the subject matter I was speaking about. And I never wanted to feel like the younger person in the room. So I always surrounded myself with older people and like tried to make it seem like I was much more than I was. And for some people that comes across as like over sexualizing myself, and that's not what it was at all.
Right.
I just wanted that maturity, but I did feel like I had a sexual energy to me way earlier than other people felt it. And I wasn't going around like talking about sex and talking about this. Like I was a regular
Right.
kid, just in my heart of hearts. I always felt that I was like more of a sexual being. And that's not to say that I was going out and having a lot of sex. Like for someone that owns a sex company, you'd be surprised. But, I just always felt like this was something that spoke to me more, or I felt more comfortable expressing than other people.
Yeah.
And I felt like we have so many, I mean, 70% of sexual wellness companies are run by, operated by, designed by men. And who are like the biggest purchasers in the sexual wellness space? Obviously, women were the big purchasers basically in
Right.
every space. So like, why are men deciding what's going in and around my vulva? Like, why are they doing the branding? Why is it from their gaze, from their perspective? I just never could understand that. And you see now a lot of sexual wellness companies are popping
Hmm.
up and they
Yes.
have branding that's very muted. And I think that's a direct reaction to the over sexualized, hyper sexualized branding that
Right.
we've seen, in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s.
Hmm.
And that's okay too, but that also doesn't speak to me because, like I said, I was always wanting to be this femme fatale, like, sexual being, but I didn't want to be over sexualized. I just wanted to do it in
Right.
my way. So with Runi, I mean, now it's a big sort of like cultural trope, which is like divine feminine energy, and it's picking up a lot of steam. And femininity has no definition. It can be whatever you want. But at Runi, I really want everyone, every woman, anyone who buys, anyone who clicks on our page or our website to be in their divine feminine energy, whatever that means for you.
Hmm.
So if that's dressing quote unquote sexy, which is traditionally sexy, I'll say, just for
Right.
definition's sake, do it. If that means not dressing traditionally sexy and wearing like oversized clothing, do that too. So
It's the essence of the woman. It really comes
exactly.
down, and it comes down to an inner confidence.
Hmm.
And again, it's not about, if I could say this, it's not about being sexualized. What
Hmm.
you're not promoting sexualizing yourself. You're promoting that sexual empowerment, like be who you are
Hmm.
and embrace that feminine sensuality and sexuality in the way
Yes.
that feels right for you. So
Hmm.
what are your products that you can share?
So, okay, the first product that's out is the Play Primer. And Play Primer is a serum designed for sex that enhances blood flow in your like pleasure zones, your erogenous regions. And it's made with 6 ingredients. It's super clean, pH balanced, nothing toxic, antimicrobial, and it's really amazing. It literally enhances blood flow to your blood vessels to get you like all hot and bothered during your arousal, during your cycle of an orgasm. And so
And
it is,
it can be used alone or with somebody, I
oh
take
my
it.
gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, personal or pleasure play. We actually just had this fantastic article written about us in Well and Good. And the girl was like, it gave me I guess she had used it alone. Well, I know she used it alone because she wrote that she used it with a vibrator,
Mhm.
and that she was alone. But she said it gave her body quaking orgasms with 5 minutes of aftershock. And
Come on.
I swear, this article came out yesterday.
Wow, I have to read it.
Honestly, when I got this article, like when I didn't even know that it was being written. And she said she was quaking after using the product. I was quaking reading the article because I was so happy. And to see somebody write about the product in a way where they felt empowered to talk about how it affected their body and how it made them feel. I'm like, we couldn't have done that 20 years ago. That would have been like
Right.
crazy.
Super taboo.
Yes. And it's not about like, oh, sexualize me and do this. It's like, this is just something that completely changed the way I look at my body. I feel my body. I get to know my body and get to know myself. And one of the things that people don't understand about sexual wellness, which is a shame, is that when you like take time during personal play to get to know yourself, what you like, what you don't like, when you are with a partner, if that happens for you with partner or partners, you're then able to communicate that to them and have deeper intimacy, not just on a physical level, but emotional, intellectual level too, because they will feel like, okay, she is, or they are being vulnerable with me. I can be vulnerable with them and tell them what I like. You're training yourself to be open and honest, not only with yourself, but also in other situations with other people. And then beyond that, okay, so you translate those, tools and tips and tricks that you picked up about being open, vulnerable, and honest with your partner. You've taken it to the bedroom. Well, now you take it to Starbucks. You know what you want. You feel empowered. Okay, you take it to the boardroom. What if you're negotiating a salary? That's a high pressure situation. If you don't know how to
It's
communicate,
vagina power.
it's vagina power.
It
Yes,
is. And we talked about this. Kim Anami talks. Did we talk about this when we first talked? Kim
maybe.
Anami?
I
Do you
don't
know
think so, actually.
Kim Anami, you should check her out. I had her on my show. She talks about that everything comes from the power of your vagina, that
Mm,
a woman starts feeling empowered, and it starts with building that confidence in the bedroom.
hmm.
Because then when you go to Starbucks or you order that tequila drink or you decide to leave a business or ask for a raise, it comes from that sexual confidence. And it starts with sexual wellness, getting to know yourself. I mean, I've been in the fitness business for 33 years. So for me, I talk about being fit and well,
Mhm.
because so many people don't want to have sex if they don't feel good in their body. And one of the things I talk about all the time is feeling better naked.
Mhm.
And it's about being vulnerable. All of the things that you're talking about are all intertwined: the fitness, the sex. The better you feel, the more sex you're going to want to have.
Nutrition. Like even,
Right.
and I'm sure you know this, and like this is something I'm sure you talk about all the time. Like it's not about looking a certain way. And
Mm-mm.
even when I've looked, so I actually lost 60 pounds, oh my God, 11 years ago.
60.
So sorry, 60.
Wow,
Yeah, like
congratulations. Amazing.
honestly, a long time ago. It doesn't even feel like it was me. I got my period very, very late. I gained a lot
Mhm.
of weight very, very quickly. I think hormones were catching up with me. I
Right.
was never overweight as a child, and I was really only overweight for about a year and a half. Like it
Okay.
wasn't a long time,
Wow.
but it was so debilitating for me
Mm,
because I didn't know my body. I didn't know what was going on. And even when I had only lost like 3 pounds, so I was still 57 pounds overweight. Do
right.
you know how good I felt? Not that I had to look a certain way, but because I was taking steps
Of
to,
course.
make myself feel better. And for some people, that's actually not even exercising at all. That's
Right.
just, de-stressing in some ways. You just feel better about yourself. And even I know, like when I eat food that maybe doesn't agree with me, like junk food or whatever, I'm not happy. Like
No,
in
and
the
you're not gonna,
moment,
and you're also not gonna want to have sex with somebody when you feel crappy in your body if you just ate
overfull.
like lots of hummus or I don't know, whatever it is that doesn't make you like kale. That's a
Right.
killer for me. You cannot have sex after kale. So,
Or cauliflower. I was talking about
right,
this the other
right.
day. I was out and I was with a friend of mine and he had eaten cauliflower and he was like, my stomach's hurting me. And I'm like, uh, hello.
Right,
Like
right,
it's not rocket
exactly.
science, you know?
Exactly. And it really does come from that confidence, and it
Hmm.
confidence is huge. So that that sounds like an amazing product. It's now that was that your very first product that you created?
Yeah, so that's the first product for
Okay.
Runi, the play primer.
Mhm.
And honestly, it's life-changing for anyone that uses it. Everyone comes back with, oh my gosh, this has changed the game. I mean, there's also like so many other reasons why I started this and why I went with this product and I formulated this from scratch. I had the ingredients that I wanted to use, I had the intended effect, and then we kind of put them together. And it was like 7 months of going back and forth, formulating, trying, testing, whatever. But there's so many women, and again, because sexual education in America is extremely fractured and
It
anachronistic,
is.
they go through so many issues, down there in and around their vagina and their vulvar regions, and they go to doctors. They not number one, don't know how to describe it. They number two, don't even know what they're going through. So many pelvic floor dysfunctions, so many issues with vulvodynia or vaginismus, like things like that, that make sex so difficult to enjoy and very painful.
Right.
And they just think this is the way it's supposed to be. No, it's not. And if those are things that you're going through, there's a whole host of things that people have, ailments that people have. If you're going through any of those issues, you need a product like Runi to help you, right? To assist you with anything that you have. Like the CBD and the mushrooms together in my product in Play Primer really help with muscle relaxation. So if you're going through any tightness in the pelvic floor, like this is a product that's going to definitely change the game for you when you're in that moment of intercourse. It completely helps with penetration.
How did you know, where did you learn how to put together these ingredients?
So I knew, like, I just have always been really ingredient focused and ingredient based. Just super, and it actually started when I started losing weight. Because I was like, okay, these are things that I want to put in and on my body, and these are things I don't. And I just took an interest in, and not to say that some things are right for me, that means they're right for everybody, but
Right.
I just took stock in what was working for me and what wasn't. And so I've always had this interest in ingredients. And so I knew about CBD and I knew about adaptogenic mushrooms because I had taken adaptogenic mushrooms to calm, to relax, especially when I started yoga. There's a lot of Ayurvedic science and a lot of Ayurvedic practices that are built into learning about yoga, and they use a lot of adaptogenic mushrooms. So I took, basically 4 or 5 different ingredients to a formulator. And then they have a scientist there. And then, we started going back and forth and back and forth. And then that's kind of how we landed on the final product.
Wow.
But I had these 3 ingredients that I really was particular about, and we made it work. So
Is there anybody else out there that has this type of formula? And how are you different? Is that what differentiates you from the other sexual wellness companies? And are you blown away at how big and saturated the sexual wellness industry is getting?
So I'll start with that. Yes.
Okay.
It's like every day there's a new lube, there's a new sexual wellness company, but it's because there's a gap in the market. Like
Yes.
I said, we've had these like 3 companies that shall remain nameless who've been dominating the market and telling us what's sexy, how to look, how to feel, how to touch, how to taste. And it's like, whoa. There's a million ways we can do this. Like, why are we not focusing on all these other ways? So all these other companies are popping up now because there's such a vast gap in the market for them to all fill. And I love it. Like, people are always like, oh my God, do you hate the fact that there's so many sexual wellness companies? I'm like, no, we should all be bolstering each other.
I
Like,
agree.
right? Like the
Yes.
competition, great. I love it. Like, they let them be smart in their lane. I'll be smart in my lane. And if our lanes intertwine and cross, even better. Like,
Right.
let's bolster each other. Let's get the word out there. So not shocked at all. Really, I'm actually very excited about it. There's like no limit to the upper shelf for me and for my company. And then when it comes to, sorry, what was the first question you asked? I forgot.
How does it differentiate like the product?
Right. So, there are other sexual wellness companies out there that have products that are similar to mine, that use CBD because it's a vasodylator, but there's so many adaptogenic mushrooms and there's so many great ingredients out there that no 2 formulas are really ever the same. And number 2, a lot of those sexual arousal serums, as they're called, use oil as a base because CBD is a fat soluble ingredient, which means that it needs a fat in order to activate. And so a lot of them will use an oil base, which means that it's not compatible with latex condoms.
I was just gonna, right. The
Yeah.
whole right.
So I was like, if I'm number 1, going to come out with one product, I don't need to make it difficult for consumers to then have to go out and buy a special condom and blah, 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 blah. Because not only do we want to practice safe sex, we also want to make sure that we scream from the rooftops, you should be using protection,
Right.
and should be practicing safe sex. So I was like, this has to be latex compatible and latex safe. So it cannot have oil. So that's really how I differentiate myself from the other brands. And also just really focusing on empowering women to do the things that make them feel good. Like, it's all about, for us, pleasure practice. So even though this play primer, we started with sexual wellness, I really don't think about the brand as purely a sexual wellness brand.
Okay.
Like it's a brand that does drops, right? And it's a brand that focuses on holistic wellness. So like the next thing we're coming out with, which is in like 3.5 weeks, is skincare. So, and again, it comes from my desire to be and need to be ingredient focused and like really focus on ingredients that are working for people and seeing gaps in the market and trying to fill them. Because I
Are you
think
trying to reach a certain demographic? So like sexual wellness, I could tell you that, well, I don't know for sure, but I'm 61. I'll be 62 at the end of this year. Yeah. And a lot of women my age will not talk about sex. It's taboo, like over 55, they don't talk about it anymore. And there are all these products out there that are anti-aging, anti this, anti that. So with a sexual with your product, do you who are you trying to reach? Are you have a really wide open lane, or are you trying to keep it super narrow and go after Gen X and millennials, or are you trying to hit the baby boomers? Because we're still having sex, by the way.
Oh, and that's the thing. So like a lot of women, when they hit menopause, of course, like I know from my mom and her friends, I've been at the table when, these conversations come up, like sex is difficult. It's much more difficult. And when you think about having sex, like self-lubrication as you get older becomes more difficult. This
Right.
product helps with that. And so number one, it's for people who have dysfunctions, pelvic floor dysfunctions, or if they
Right.
have like issues in the bedroom just because of whatever, their sort of biological, the way
Right.
the body is built.
Shit happens, right? Yeah.
Exactly. It's also for people who just get tensed up in sexual encounters.
Yes.
And you can be nervous, you can be scared, you can be anxious at any age. Like even so I'm now 29. At 22 years old, if you think I know what I was doing, no, 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 no. I was scared shitless every single time I went and had sex. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't even know what my body was doing because number one, I wasn't taking time to explore my body.
Right.
And a product like this encourages that. Of course, you don't need a product to do that, but it encourages
It
that.
encourages. Yeah, I love that.
Exactly. And also, when you think about men and women pleasure, like one of the things that gets talked about a lot is how men generally have an easier time coming to orgasm and then resolution.
Mhm.
For women, not only it takes a lot longer, but number two, we don't get to that point as easily and we need a lot more TLC.
Right.
A product like this makes that part of sex a lot easier. You can relax knowing that the cycle of orgasm is going to be bigger, better, more intensified, right? So you don't have to be anxious of the fact that it takes you a little bit longer because this is going to help speed up the process. But you can also have fun with it.
Yeah. And so are they drops?
Yeah, it's a serum.
Okay.
Yeah, it's literally, so this is the box.
Which I
Just
love.
like chic,
Yep, it's
cute.
just really simple.
So simple, so easy. This is the packaging.
I love it.
And so it's like literally in a little egg. You open it up and then you just literally, I don't know if you can see.
Does it have a taste to it?
No taste,
Mhm.
no odor, like
Okay.
no smell, no fragrance, no nothing.
Wow.
And that's it.
Wow.
And like literally it rubs it. What is actually very, very funny, like
Does it feel warm?
no, it's actually a little bit more cooling.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a little bit more cooling, but there's no like cool tingle sensation. It's just, it's not warm because a lot of arousal serums will give that warmth. This
Yes.
one doesn't do that.
Okay.
No smell, no taste, no nothing. But what's actually very interesting about it is every time I put it on my skin, it absorbs and my skin is like extremely soft. And so that's what got me thinking about skincare. And I was like, whatever we have in this serum, like if we like pull out certain ingredients and put in others, like I feel like we definitely could like make an amazing like hyaluronic or something for your skin. Cause everyone comments anytime I go for a manicure, they're like, your hand's so pretty, your hand's so pretty. And I'm like, it's because I'm constantly showing people play primer and rubbing it into my hands.
So tell me
Like
about the skincare product.
it is bananas.
For
Like
everybody? Would you say
it's
this is for everybody again?
it's
Okay.
basically, it's for all skin types. We're using a really special ingredient. It's an AM serum, so you put it on in the morning,
Mhm.
and it helps protect against blue light, and it also boosts collagen production.
Ooh,
It's honestly, and it's so smooth, it's so silky, it's amazing. But this is the thing. So again, everybody always asks me, like, who is your target market? Like, even you asked me.
right.
And number one, the reason why I wanted an ingredient that was amazing for people who are sitting in front of their screens all day is because people don't realize that actually the light, the blue light, is worse for you than the UV rays that you're getting from the sun. Like, a lot of people are working from home. I guarantee you're not putting on sunscreen in the morning, and you definitely should be putting on SPF if you're sitting in
Right.
front of your computer all day.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's so
I did not know that.
it's so bad for your skin. And I also didn't know that until I started. I mean, with my last beauty business, I started researching, like, glycation and aging of skin and how that happens. And blue light is like one of the worst things in the world. So SPF definitely every day, even if you're just like chilling at home on a Sunday watching movies,
Right. Right.
for sure.
It's I wish that you were around when I was growing up. Like you said at the beginning of the interview, I wish this product was around when I was 14 or 15 years old. And
Mhm.
I wish that products like this were talked about and that they
Mhm.
were around so I could have shared them with my daughters who are 29 and 33.
Yeah.
And I make sure, like, you know, I it's so important for women to understand that you don't have to be in a relationship to use any of these products. I think more and more women know that these days.
Mhm.
And we just now need to educate the older women that, like,
Right.
you don't have to find a guy, that it's okay to try these products and take out your vibrator or use your fingers, do whatever you want to do to have that pleasure, because you're releasing endorphins the same way
Yes.
you would be releasing endorphins when you work out. And it's the reason people get addicted to sex, to working out, because they love that feel good. It's that feel good feeling you get,
I
and you
always
want to
say
keep
yum
coming
yum
back to it.
time.
Yeah, yum yum
Yum
time.
yum time. Like that's it's so, like, that's why I used to, and I still do, like, that's why junk food I love, because you get yum yum time. It's an instant boost of that yum yum time. And something like Runi, the one thing, like, the play primer, and then what will hopefully be the skincare and all the
Mhm.
other things, is it's like we're extending that yum yum time, but we're doing it in a super healthy way. Like, what's better than that? Literally.
Mhm.
And exercise, like you mentioned, is the exact same thing. Like, you're walking up to your spin class, it's like, I don't, how am I going to do this? And then by the end of spin class, you're like, woohoo, like,
Right.
let's go again, time two, you
Right.
know?
Right. Exactly. So how does somebody find the product?
So you can go on meetruni.com, meetruni.com.
Okay.
And the website is literally one of my favorite parts of the whole brand, because the photography is just so
It's
beautiful.
gorgeous. It's
Yeah.
very feminine, empowering, again, not sexualized. And I think that's the
Mhm.
most important thing that I want women to understand. This is not about sexualizing yourself. This is about you taking care of yourself in the most
Yes. And
important way.
even when you gave me, like, your story at the beginning, when you were selling eyeglasses and you were wearing things that were tighter and whatever, you were not sexualizing yourself. You just felt confident in that. And then other people sexualized you.
Right.
And you felt like, okay, I have to, like, give to get.
I have to
That's
fit
so
in.
weird.
Right.
Right.
I have to fit in.
And so with this sexual wellness company, I mean, now it's just sort of a wellness company, holistic wellness. But because we started with the sexual wellness product, I didn't want the photography. I didn't want the imagery to be like girls in lingerie with their tits out,
Right.
because I knew that was to be expected, especially when I'm going around saying female empowerment, divine feminine energy. Like, when I'm dropping terms like that, I know what people expect. And I, like, in every single photo, I'm in a suit, and I'm like, because I can still have sex and be a powerful girl boss, or boss. Doesn't have to be a girl boss. You don't have to, I can do both. They're not, like, mutually exclusive at all. And that's what I want to get across to women. Like, you can go home, you can have sex, you can be sexy,
Yeah.
quote unquote, traditional sexy, or
Right.
you don't have to do that. But if you do, you can still go out into the world and kill it and be an equal and be more than an equal. You can do both of those things, or all of those things. I just want people to know that you can have it all. Like, my life, and I wake up every single day and I'm like, I will have it all today. I will. And I
I
have bad
love,
days, but
yeah,
you can have it all.
I love that you're saying that. And I could feel how much you feel about that. And I
Oh yeah.
could tell how much you want to help empower women. And we
Hmm.
throw that women empowerment around a lot, but this is in a different way. And
Hmm.
I think you're coming from to it and explaining it. I was writing down divine feminine energy.
Hmm.
That's really what it's about. It's about, embracing the feminine you. And it
Hmm.
doesn't have to look masculine and it doesn't have to look sexual. It's
Hmm.
just strength and confidence,
Hmm.
feeling just that confidence in yourself. And where does it come from? It starts with you. It starts from getting to know who you are, from the
Hmm.
bedroom to the, like you said, to the boardroom.
And anywhere. And what's so funny to me is that people are like, oh, you're just doing this, like you're hypersexualizing, you're this. I'm like,
Mm,
no, I feel confident when I wear tight clothes. So you will see Felicia wearing tight clothes. But if you feel confident wearing baggy clothes, or you feel confident, not wearing makeup, please do that. That's what I want you to know, that there's not one way to be sexy. You can do it in any which way you want. And like we spoke about, I guess, a few minutes ago, everything starts from the vagina. It all starts getting to know yourself, because if you don't even feel confident enough to touch your own body, how are you going to do anything else with confidence? Like you're compartmentalizing part of you, and a big part of you, like a big part of being, of existing in this world as somebody who has a vulva, is understanding how that vulva works, how it plays into your life. Like there are times in the month where I'm sure you feel this way. You can't even get out of bed because you have pains from whatever, and it's starting down there. If you don't feel comfortable looking, if you don't feel comfortable touching, how are you going to exist in this world? And I just want women to feel confident. Like we're not even confident enough to go to doctors and be like, sex is painful for me. What is wrong?
right.
Huh?
Right. I
It's
agree.
crazy. So, I get on this diatribe and I will die on this hill, but,
No, I love it. No, I watched a long time ago Little Fires Everywhere. Do you know the
I've heard of that.
movie? Or it's with Reese Witherspoon,
Hmm.
I believe.
Hmm.
And she's in a book club and she's
Hmm.
very conservative. So
Hmm.
she's like the girl next door. And she's in a book club and they're talking about, some sex book. It could have been Shades of Grey, but I don't really, is that the name of the book? Shades of
Yeah,
Grey,
50
something like
Shades.
that, 50 Shades. And anyway, there's a scene where she goes into her bathroom and she takes a mirror and looks at her vagina and she starts giggling
Right.
because she's never done it before and she's
Mhm.
given birth to like 4 kids.
Like, and you know what? Like, it's just so crazy to me, because I can bet that men have looked at their own, private parts, and they know exactly what they look like.
Yeah, they know every little speck on it.
Exactly. And like, why are we ashamed? I just don't want people to be ashamed of who they are and what makes them feel good, which is why I literally scream from the rooftops, pleasure practice, pleasure forward, pleasure positive play. And it's not that you have to go around talking about sex. I understand the hesitation because it is a sensitive subject. We don't want kids, engaging in certain behaviors and being older than they are before they need
Right.
to be. That is all things that I understand. The one thing I don't understand, though, is when we attach shame to something that's natural, and then we don't have real conversations. And then again, we get to this final point, which is what I said earlier, because we don't know how to say yes, we don't know how to say no. And that's scary to me. So that's why I just want people to know themselves, know what makes them feel good, know what makes them feel bad, and then try and live their most authentic life as fearlessly as possible. And you will crack eggs to make an omelet every single time. There will be a
Right.
lot of casualties along the way. I'm
Yes.
living proof of it. But when you know who you are, when you know what you want, and you know how to get it, there is nothing more powerful in this world.
Yeah, not carrying the shame
Hmm.
because that's what happens is you start feeling the shame. Like, is anybody else feeling this way? So with companies like you and you being so outspoken and confident with your message,
Hmm.
I hope that in this show that people will spread the news because I love what you're doing. And I was going to ask you what it means to be fearlessly authentic.
Just means going after what you want. That's it. That is it. And it's just so funny because now it sounds so easy. It's like when you give your friend relationship advice, it's like, you got to leave, girl. But it's like, if that was you in that situation, you'd be there, for like month 6, 7, 8, when you should have left in month 3.
Right.
So it's easy to say, to comment on someone else's life and say, go, okay, you want that raise, go ask for it. But of course, there's so much added pressure, the stakes are high. And so I just want people to start thinking about the things that they want, to live authentically and to do it fearlessly. Just start thinking about the things that you want, because you'll start thinking about it enough that you will start making small changes to get where you need to go, because you can't get it out of your head. There's only so long you can live in denial.
You're
So,
absolutely right. And you realize that when you wake up in the morning and you feel like okay, I can't do this another day, or
mhm,
you feel this huge block in front of you. You're like, okay, I need to remove this block, whether it's a
mhm,
person or a thing or a business or whatever it is, move it aside
mhm.
and start moving it forward, start
Yes.
living my life. As scary as it feels, I'm going to
Mm.
do it.
Oh, yeah.
So I am so honored that we finally got on
I
here
know.
together. Yay. And I can't wait to get the product and
I'm
try it.
so excited. I cannot wait. I'm gonna send you, well, I've sent it already. So,
Okay.
but by the time this comes out, you'll have had it. But there's like some extra stuff in there, so I'm
Oh,
excited
thank
for you to
you.
get the
Thank
package.
you. So you're on Instagram. How can another way for people to reach out if they wanted to DM you? Is that
Oh
okay?
my God,
All right.
literally,
So give us
please.
your handles.
So my handle is Miss Felicia H, MissFelicia. You can literally like send me anything you want and I'll answer anything. And then meet Runi. This is the
Mhm.
same on Instagram, MEETRUNI, and on TikTok, same MEETRUNI. And TikTok, like we go wild, like we have a good time on there.
Do
So
you? Okay. Okay.
yeah.
I have to start following you on TikTok. I like
Oh,
TikTok.
it's so fun. I mean, we don't have a lot of followers on TikTok because we're new. We only started
Mhm.
it like 3 weeks ago, but
Okay.
we just go like, as we say internally, B to W, balls to wall, like
Right.
anything goes. And it's so fun. So
So
yeah,
much fun. All right. So everybody follow Felicia Hershenhorn. She has given you all of her handles.
mhm.
And thank you again for being on the
Thank
show. I
you for
really
having
appreciate
me.
it. And for everybody listening, thank you for joining us today. And until we talk next time, go live your fearlessly authentic life. Bye for now.